If I talk about violent rebellions against Scottish kings at key turning points in Scottish history, you probably don't expect me to be in Orkney. What if I told you that two sites right next door to each other in Orkney are linked to the dynastic changes, not just in Scotland, but the British Isles? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to be told when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. So, I'm in Orkney and there's so much history. From prehistoric Skara Brae, Maze How, Iron Age Brochs, right through to Napoleonic towers, a 20th century sunken German fleet at Scapa Flow, and of course, a beautiful chapel built by Italian prisoners of war. There's way too much history to see in one go here. But when I got here, something interesting struck me, and I wanted to tell you. Let me know in the comment section if you'd like to include Orkney in a historical tour of Scotland. But firstly, like Shetland, it feels different. It feels different from other parts of Scotland anyway. They have their own Norse identity. You can see that in the stuff they sell in the kitsch tourist shops. Not tartan, but Viking. Flags of Norse Orcadian types, as well as saltires and Union flags. The Orkney sagas for sale in the museum, and of course the accent. I love it. In my live show Stories of Scotland that I performed on Saturday here, I make the point that Scotland's not a homogeneous place. And standing outside the Earl's Palace in Kirkwall, there are few locations better to make that point. Scotland, or Alapa, was first formed in the 9th century. The lands south of the 4th Clyde line didn't become part of Scotland until the 11th century. The Hebrides became part of Scotland in the 13th century. But Orkney and Shetland didn't come under Scots control until James III married Margaret of Denmark in the 15th century. Given that Scotland was subsumed into England at the start of the 18th century, and folks still complain about that in the 21st, you can see why identity here might be complicated. And yet, this place is inextricably linked to politics and dynastic struggles in Edinburgh and even with our southern neighbours. This is a point that leapt out to me when I was planning a trip to Bursay. Behind me is the Earl's Palace in Bursay. That's right, the same Earl as in Kirkwall before. In fact, the same Earl whose castle we filmed when we were in Scalloway in Shetland. Who is this guy? He was Patrick Stewart, 2nd Earl of Orkney and Lord of Zetland. His dad, the 1st Earl, was the illegitimate son of James V and therefore half-brother to Mary Queen of Scots. It was her who first granted the earldom to her half-brother. Now let's stop for a minute. That means that this 1st Earl of Orkney was the great-grandson of the James III who first brought these islands into Scotland. Now, some of the people that are watching this will have great-grandchildren. So some of the folks who lived under the earldom of the 1st Earl of Orkney had been born Norse. Now, the son of a Stuart monarch was in control. And he was a bit of a git, quite frankly. His son, Patrick Stewart, was an even bigger git. And a castle builder extraordinaire as the 2nd Earl. His dad passed on the earlship in 1589. As a boy, he'd been a good pal of his cousin James VI, and as an adult, he'd become a prominent figure at court. Apparently, he served as a sewer assistant to the king at the baptism of James's first son, Henry, at Stirling Castle. Now, I have no idea what a sewer assistant to the king does, but it sounds shite. In 1600, Patrick was part of a hunting trip with James in the Borders. Of course, 3 years after that, James went further south still to become James I of England. So in 1609, when Earl Patrick's greedy taxation of and brutal treatment of his North tenants in his Northern Isles, he was summoned to Edinburgh, not to meet with his old pal and nephew James VI, but with his Privy Council. They had him locked up in Edinburgh and then later in Dumbarton Castle. Whilst he was in a pokey, he got his son to raise rebellion up here to take back what had been taken back from him in the Northern Isles. And that was rebellion against his cousin James, now both of Scotland and England and Ireland. Long story short, there was a wave of head chopping, but it illustrates how the history of this island is both separate from and inextricably linked to the rest of Scotland. And for a deeper and even yet more distant look, we only have to walk half a mile down the road. Now, I'd say if there were two events that were key turning points in Scotland's history, it'd be James VI becoming James I of England, and the other one takes us 2 minutes drive. If anything speaks of links to and contradiction with Scottish history, it's this island. Now, I'm about to go over there and I'll put some footage up of what I see when I get there. I expect to find Pictish stones showing the link to mainland Scotland that would have gone back to our founding peoples. By the 9th century, there are signs of Norse settlement there too, but not with quite the violence of the Viking attacks on Iona and elsewhere. The point is that the Norse islands that became the property of Scotland in the 15th century had been overtaken by the Norse from the Picts before that. But the guy associated with this island who had more impact than any other has to be Thorfinn the Mighty, written about in those Orkney sagas. Mirroring the later Stuart marriage, Thorfinn was the son of Sigurd, who some records suggest married the daughter of Malcolm II of Scotland. Thorfinn spent time growing up in Scotland and he had lands in Caithness and Sutherland. This made Thorfinn, I think the Scandinavians would call him Thorin, a kinsman and a peer of Duncan I of Scotland, and of course his nemesis Macbeth. This was the other period of huge change in Scotland. Despite the fake news printed by Shakespeare, Duncan's demise didn't come murdered in his bed, but when Macbeth killed him in battle down in Murray. Macbeth's triumph over Duncan came with Thorfinn as an ally, after Duncan had attacked his lands in the north. And unless you buy that theory that the character in the sagas, Carl Hundison, was actually Macbeth, and let's just not go there. Now, Thorfinn would have had his own claim to the Scottish throne, but he deferred to Macbeth, who reigned for 17 years before Duncan's son, Malcolm Canmore, returned to Scotland with a Northumbrian army to take the Scottish throne. Malcolm's first wife, before he wed the saintly Margaret, was Thorfinn's widow, Ingeborg. Their sons were part of that maelstrom of change that followed with her younger brother, David I, the last man standing. He was the guy that brought Norman knights to Scotland, Bruce's Balials. Now, if you're looking for a more scholarly reading of Malcolm Canmore, there can be no better source than the book by Neil McGuigan. I'll leave a link in the description. But as an enthusiastic observer, it seems to me that this was a period where the man who spent much of his days on that island and controlled much of the north of Scotland, the Hebrides and these Northern Isles, was at the heart of Scottish affairs at a time of one of its greatest transitions. I've got loads more to explore in Orkney, but that'll be for another trip. If you'd like to know more about Shetland and its history, then there's a link coming up on screen. As always, support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member or buy me a coffee in the description below. Ha mi an dochas gwn bí lam alive. Cheery and drasta.